Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about specifically why I am going to choose to skip the movie, watching the movie Ready Player One. All right, so let's get into it. So Ready Player One was originally a fantastic book written by Ernest Cline, and now it's going to be a 2018 movie directed by Steven Spielberg. All right, now that is the number one reason I'm going to choose to skip Ready Player One based on what I've already seen in the trailers. Okay, all right, so let's get into it. All right, so one, I read every single page of Ready Player One. It was a very interesting book. I didn't think it was a great book. I really didn't. I think what it was the introduction of a great writer. And I do think Ernest Cline is a great writer. I read his follow-up book, Armada, which is not a sequel to Ready Player One, and that's a great book. And I think Ernest Cline is a great writer. He's really smart. He has a lot of cool ideas. Ready Player One is a really interesting concept, right? But it's very problematic. And the reason why is video games, all right? So let's talk about video games. All right, so I really stand against video gaming at a rate of over 10 hours per week, okay? So 10 hours per week, and I really think you'd be ideal, at 5 hours a week. But I have, I watched the days when World of Warcraft came out. I watched people lose jobs, girlfriends, wives, entire tracks of year-long friends. I've seen people lose things to out-of-control video gaming at a rate of 20, 30, 40, even 50 hours a week, right? And Ready Player One massively glorifies video gaming at the highest levels, 30, 40, 50 hours a week plus. Like, it's just like that's what, by the way, this content contains major spoilers for Ready Player One and for Armada. Okay? All right, so here's the issue. Ready Player One is about a young... Okay, so let's talk about this, right? All right. Ready Player One is about a young poor video gamer. Who's better to tell the visual story of a young poor video gamer than a 71-year-old millionaire? Because that's exactly what Steven Spielberg is. Like, why on earth anybody thought it would be a good idea for him to direct this movie is crazy. This is the story of video gamers, right? Of poor, young video gamers, right? It's been a long time since Steven Spielberg was poor. It has been a long time since he was young, and it has been... and I'm not convinced he's ever played video games significantly at all, right? Like, there's such a major disconnect between Steven Spielberg and this film. The other reason why... Now, I will say... Him being older, right, an older person, he can certainly get over that hurdle, right? And so I looked for clues. Is he going to be able to put himself in the position of that person and empathize with them and see what their experience is like, right? Well, the reality is, I think the answer is no. And I'm not saying that based because he's old. I'm saying that based because I'm saying that based on the fact of his last few movies, right? His last few movies, I can barely even think of the names of them, but there's Hugo and Abraham Lincoln and so he is a multi-millionaire, and it's perfectly okay to be a multi-millionaire. Oh, and The Post, right? So the movie The Post, right? So these movies are the creations of an eccentric millionaire who gets to do whatever they want. This is not someone who's trying to empathize with somebody. This is somebody who's saying, I'm going to do exactly what I want, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, right? The Post, in my opinion, so one of the things that's really fascinating is, and The Post is one of the reasons I'm choosing to skip Ready Player One, right? So The Post is this movie about, the Post, the Washington Post. In the 70s, it's like this historical film. It's got like Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, and this thing was like, this is somebody who would enjoy being in a blue state. This is their dream, right? Well, I listened to the review of this film I did not see the film, on Slate. Slate actually said this was made for us and no one else, like blue state people. This is what this movie is for. We did not like it. And the reason why is they're like, it's too saccharine. It's like, it's putting the ball on a tee. It's not really fair, like it's so like stilted. And that, I completely agree. I love Jaws, and I love E.T., and I love Steven Spielberg, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love his early work. But the reality is he is suffering from a very real problem. When you are an established millionaire artist, it is incredibly difficult to make compelling art for anyone else who is not a millionaire artist, right? And you can see that through and through in Steven Spielberg's work. He absolutely has the right to do this, right? He has the right to make movies for artist millionaires that artist millionaires will like. And look at his movies. It's exactly what he's doing. Look at the box office for his movies. That's exactly who's going to see them, because there aren't many of them, and his current movies do not make much money at all. And the reason why is he's an artist millionaire making movie for artist millionaires, right? And you can see that at the box office, right? Nobody's seeing these films, right? Now, the issue here with Ready Player One, right? But he's still Steven Spielberg, which means he is pure Hollywood. Pure Hollywood. Pure Hollywood. So where do you end up when you're at pure Hollywood? Well, Ernest Cline is a very smart man. He wrote Ready Player One, right? The main character in Ready Player One, right? He is the best in the world at playing 80s vintage video games, right? And you know how he got there? With absolute obsession, right? 30, 40, 50 plus hours a week in a VR rig, right? You know what happens when you're 30, 40, 50 hours a week in a VR rig? You get really big. You get very overweight, right? That is the price that Ernest Cline shows in the book, right? Shows that this guy weighs I think he weighs like 300 pounds in the book, right? And he's embarrassed about it, and he has to deal with it, right? So when you play video games at the absolute highest levels, right? This is especially in a VR rig, right? This is what can happen because you don't have time to go outside. You don't have time to to go for a walk or run or keep your heart rate up or any of those things, right? Not at 30, 40, 50 hours a week of gameplay or more, right? And Ernest Cline dealt with this issue in the book very realistically. Steven Spielberg, oh, nobody wants to look at somebody who's big. Make them skinny, right? Glorification of massive obsession on video games. And right now, in our culture, that is incredibly irresponsible, in my opinion. You cannot tell kids today who are already struggling to escape screens at virtually every level that you can be a world-class video gamer and look skinny as a beanpole and look the way that the person does in this Hollywood movie, which is incredibly crafted. That person is an actor, right? They come from the Hollywood machine, which means that they have all the resources to make sure they have the right nutrition, they have the right exercise, that things are balanced, right? So the actor we're presented with in the movie is a balanced, healthy person, right? Which is a complete disconnect from being the best player in the world at video games, which is what Ready Player One is about, right? So this is pure Hollywood wanting to tell a story, not showing any of the negative aspects of it. And I'll tell you right now, this is an artist millionaire getting ready to make a movie, and maybe Steven Spielberg's a smart guy, right? Maybe he's going to try to make it so that that it will in some ways connect with young poor video gamers. But man, that's a really far bridge for him. That's a really, really, really far bridge for him. And just watching the trailers and seeing a completely healthy, completely exercised, completely nutritioned person who I'm supposed to also believe plays 30, 40, 50, plays an obsessive amount of video games on a VR rig constantly is absolutely ludicrous. And in my opinion, to the children of our nation, it is irresponsible. I will be skipping Ready Player One, the film. Take care.